guys? This is Sam Talks About Games, and today I'm going to be talking about the future of Zelda, 2D, 3D, and remakes alike. First off, I would like to add that if you like my content, subscribe and like. It would help the channel out a lot. So, where does all this information stem from? Eiji Aonuma went in an interview and he said that he's not concerned with the classic Zelda games, and he's just focused on moving forward. And let me add, that involves moving forward from Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild as well. It just doesn't mean classic games. So I do think this quote is being blown out of proportion. But let me give examples about how he's been moving forward all along with the Zelda team. Ocarina of Time was the first foray into 3D. Majora's Mask experimented with grief, loss, and 5 stages of depression. Wind Waker experimented with the first semblance of open-world exploration. Twilight Princess was a very mature game and had a gothic fantasy vibe. It was also a spiritual successor to Ocarina of Time. Skyward Sword experimented with the first semblance of sky exploration, and it was actually supposed to be open world until hardware limitations ruined that possibility. Breath of the Wild was the first open world game. Tears of the Kingdom redefined what a successor can be. So, tell me how this hasn't all been innovating on each game already since Zelda's began. So that's why I think that classic Zelda isn't done. However, I do think like the linear dungeon to dungeon thing might be done. I do think the next game's going to be non-linear. You could do anything in any order. It's going to be like a Tears of the Kingdom 2, but it's like not going to be in the same map. It's just going to have the same gameplay style, you know. It's going to be not a sequel. It's going to be something new, rest assured. It's going to be a new map. I do think the new map may be pretty big. It might be the same size as Tears of the Kingdom, even considering Tears of the Kingdom built on Breath of the Wild's map. I do think that's a possibility, and with that possibility comes a 6.5 to 7 year dev time, I believe. That would mean the next 3D Zelda would be releasing around the end of the Switch 2's generation, which is kind of wild to think about. But yeah, I do think the next game is going to be non-linear. You could do anything in any order. But I do think they want to bring back dungeons fully. I know Tears of the Kingdom technically brought back dungeons, but it was like a half step. So it had the unique themes, it had the bosses. I mean, the bosses in Tears of the Kingdom may be my favorite in any Zelda game. Twilight Princess is up there though. But yeah, there's unique themes and unique bosses, which was a big step in the right direction. But it wasn't all the way there. There's no boss keys, no dungeon items, no linear dungeons like there used to be. So, how can we get there in an open world setting? Well, I have an idea. So, an open world setting can have the shrines, the shrine replacements, whatever they're called. Those can be non-linear. You could go to shrines in any order. However, the story can be gated. So, let me explain more. The shrines can be done with the abilities that you get at the beginning of the game, just like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. However, dungeons can give you dungeon items that can only be used in subsequent dungeons, and the dungeons would be linear. So dungeon items are used only in dungeons, maybe in the overworld a little bit. I don't know if anybody remembers, but Yunobo's ability in Tears of the Kingdom unlocked some progression in the Goron area, his little role. So there was some more linearity in Tears of the Kingdom than Breath of the Wild. There was more linear story, there was more linear Metroidvania elements, so they are stepping in that direction a little bit. So I don't see the concern. But yeah, so the abilities at the start of the game could allow you to complete the shrines, and they could also be used in the dungeons, but the dungeons could also have dungeon items such as the hookshot and stuff like that that would need to be used in subsequent dungeons. and those subsequent dungeons would be blocked from your path until you complete the prior dungeons. But it could still be open world with the shrines. In other words, the side content is the non-linear stuff. I don't know if I would call shrines side content, because they're arguably a majority of the game in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe not even arguably, maybe objectively. But yeah, I think that's how they could do dungeons. Now to move on. As I said, the next 3D Zelda is likely 6.5 to 7 years away. So that's a long time. Nintendo wants to release a new Zelda every year. They've stated that. So, there's about 6 years that they need to fill with Zelda games. What do I think is coming out in the next 6 years to fill the time between the next 3D Zelda and Tears of the Kingdom? I have an idea. 2024, Switch 2 is likely to release, right? And I believe why Twilight Princess and Wind Waker haven't been ported to Switch is because the Switch 2 port is in the works, like a 4K Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. So I do think that they will not be released in a combo, however. I think they're going to spread it out. And I think they're going to be heavily remastered. So I think Twilight Princess may come first because that's kind of the more wanted one. But I do think they're both going to come, but it's going to be either Twilight Princess or Wind Waker next year. Heavily remastered, 60, 70 bucks, however much it is. Because I have a sneaking suspicion that the Switch 2 is going to have a $70 standard for games. They already tested it out with Tears of the Kingdom, and it worked, damn it. So, I do think there's going to be Zelda, Twilight Princess, or Wind Waker next year. 2025? It's a hard one to guess. But I'm going to say Grezzo's working on either a 2D Zelda remake or a new 2D Zelda. So 2025 could be either an Oracle game or the Oracle games remade. Or if they really want to be, stingy, they could do just one game. But it's going to be either one of those or a new 2D Zelda. I have a sneaking suspicion it's a new 2D Zelda just based on how long they've been working on said project. I feel like the Oracle games would have came out already if those were the ones being made. So I'm going to say a new 2D Zelda in 2025. 2026, I'm going to get crazy here. I'm going to say Ocarina of Time remake. A whole remake. And that's going to be the big 3D Zelda that tied us over until the next one in 2029 or 2030. I'll just say 2030. So 2026, Ocarina of Time remake. 2027, I'm going to say it's going to be the other half of the Wind Waker Twilight Princess 4K ports. So, if it's Twilight Princess next year, it'll be Wind Waker in 2027. 2028. I believe this is an off year or a spin-off. It's just going to be something small, I'd say, considering the Ocarina of Time and the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess stuff. 2029. I'll say it's hard to guess because Tears of the Kingdom had a 6-year and 2-month dev time because of COVID. So I'll just say late 2029 as the next 3D Zelda. I'll just say that. Alright? In 2030, it's probably going to be the launch year of whatever the console is after Switch 2, I'd say. I'll just say 2030 as a Majora's Mask remake. That'll be a safe bet to follow the Ocarina of Time remake. I'll just say they have like 4-year dev times. So yeah, there's a bunch of games that they could use to fill the time between Tears of the Kingdom and the next 3D Zelda, so do not worry. They have ran out of HD remasters, but there's so much other stuff they could do. Like, there's so much stuff I haven't even talked about. Like a Link to the Past remake, a Link Between Worlds port, hell, a Zelda 2 remake, and a Metroidvania style, I think would be great. for a Zelda 1 remake, albeit I do think Breath of the Wild was kind of like a Zelda 1 remake in a way. It was a reboot. So, yeah, there's a ton of stuff they can use to push Zelda for the next 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, even. And by that time, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are going to look old and they're going to require remasters. And then the next Zeldas are going to require remasters after that. They're never going to run out of Zelda games to come out with. And they could always have Koei Tecmo develop another Hyrule Warriors game. That might even be a possibility with Tears of the Kingdom. There's a lot of stuff they could use to make a Hyrule Warriors game about Tears of the Kingdom like they did with Breath of the Wild. I wasn't a huge fan of Age of Calamity because of the non-canon nature of it, but it is a thing that sells, and I think they could, do it good with another one. I mean, Age of Calamity wasn't bad, but I didn't appreciate how it was non-canon. Like, they wanted the happy ending, which I think was kind of dumb. They should have just made it true to Breath of the Wild. But yeah, there could be another Hyrule Warriors game sprinkled in there. Maybe even a Zelda maker, like a 2D dungeon maker, Zelda style. So yeah, I think there's a lot that they could do to fill the time between now and the next Zelda game. And I do think the next Zelda game is going to have dungeons. So yeah, that's about it. See ya.